Hello Gates, but every so often, someone who's been silent for decades finally speaks, and when they do, it alters how we view things. That's exactly what happened when Barry Gibb, the only surviving member of the Bee Gees, gently spoke up about a chapter of his life that fans never realized had so much weight. And at the center of it all was another legend, Kenny Rogers. For years, the world assumed their friendship was nothing more than mutual respect between two giants of different genres. But according to Barry, there was something more under the surface: creative friction, silent animosity, and a reality that stayed unresolved for decades. And when Barry finally accepted what had transpired, it threw a lengthy shadow on one of the most spectacular relationships in music history. To understand why this confession mattered so much, you needed to understand where Barry Gibb was coming from. By the late 1970s, the Bee Gees were on top of the world. Barry, together with his brothers Robin and Maurice, had defined an era. Their harmonies were distinctive, their composition unparalleled, and their influence went much beyond dancing. But with success came pressure, and with strain came cracks, not just among the band, but in how Barry regarded the industry itself. At the same time, Kenny Rogers was experiencing a career resurgence. He wasn't only a country singer anymore. He was a crossover phenomenon, slipping fluidly between country, pop, and adult contemporary. Songs like The Gambler and Lucille established him a household name, and his rough, everyman attitude helped people trust him. To the public, Kenny seemed calm, grounded, and universally respected. But behind the scenes, he was very protective of his image and his creative authority. Their worlds crossed during an era when the music industry was changing fast. Genres were merging, egos were clashing, and collaboration didn't always mean compromise. Barry would later note that when he initially worked with or around Kenny, he expected openness, the kind of creative back and forth that had defined his entire career. Instead, what he encountered felt cold, guarded, and commercial. According to Barry, there was a moment, one he replayed in his mind for years, when he knew that Kenny didn't see him as a peer, but as a tool. Barry recalls feeling exploited for his songwriting ability and musical intuition, but being subtly shut out of the bigger vision. No dispute ever exploded. No doors were slammed. That was the problem. Everything transpired in polite silence, which made it harder to address and easier to bury. Barry stated that he never spoke up at the moment. Part of it was pride. Another part was weariness. The Bee Gees were already faced with criticism as disco faded and critics turned caustic. Barry didn't want another battle. So he swallowed his rage and went on, or at least he convinced himself he did. But repressed feelings have a way of returning. Years later, when Barry reflected about the losses in his life, losing his brothers one by one, watching the industry go on, understanding how fragile heritage really is, the memory of Kenny Rogers came back with unexpected power. Barry stated it wasn't anger that lasted, but disillusionment. He had admired Kenny. He had felt there was mutual respect. Realizing that the connection may have been one-sided caused Barry to confront a hard fact about how even legends may be lonely at the top. What makes Barry's revelation so startling is that he didn't speak with malice. There was no attempt to tear Kenny down. In truth, Barry constantly complimented Kenny's talent, his hard ethic, and his impact on music. But he also made it plain that adoration doesn't erase hurt. You can respect someone and still be wounded by them. Kenny Rogers, for his part, never publicly addressed Barry's feelings until his death in March 2020. That stillness gives another dimension of intricacy. There was no resolution. No reconciliation. Just two legends bringing conflicting views of the same story to the finish. And that's what makes this news hit so profoundly. Fans frequently imagine that great musicians live charmed lives, undisturbed by the emotional struggles the rest of us endure. But Barry's remarks remind us that success doesn't stop you from feeling neglected, insulted, or taken for granted, especially by people you respect. In the years since Kenny's passing, Barry has grown more introspective, more honest, and more willing to talk about the emotional cost of his work. He's spoken of remorse, guilt, and the things left unsaid. His disclosure involving Kenny fits into that bigger pattern. It wasn't about settling scores. It was about finally telling his truth while he still could. Today, Barry Gibb stands as a live connection to one of the most crucial times in music history. He continues to perform carefully, maintain the Bee Gees' heritage, and mentor future performers. His successes are clear: entry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, lifetime achievement accolades, and a repertoire that continues to shape current music. But maybe his most striking gift now is his honesty. Kenny Rogers' legacy, too, remains intact. He's remembered as a wonderful storyteller, a genre-defying artist, and a voice that calmed millions. Barry never sought to change that. Instead, his confession adds character, reminding us that legends are human. Relationships are hard, and silence can often hurt more than fighting. So what does all of this really mean? It means that not every narrative has a clean ending. It means that respect doesn't always equal comprehension. And it suggests that even the most successful people hold moments they wish they'd managed differently. Barry's confession isn't a scandal, it's a reminder. A reminder to speak up sooner. To clear the air while there's still time. And to know that whispered realities don't disappear just because years pass. In the end, this isn't just a story about Barry Gibb and Kenny Rogers. It's a narrative about all of us, about pride, quiet, and the emotional weight of what remains unspoken. And maybe that's why Barry finally chose to talk today. Not to remake history, but to finally set his own heart at ease. So I want to know what you think.